Welcome to Ecotopia U Media. I'm your host, Melissa McGinnis, joined by my co-host, Tom Wright, and we are at the National Zero Waste Business Conference. We ran into Gary Liss.
A pleasure to be here.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
First of all, I've got to ask you about this tie.
It's made out of reused wood on reused jeans by a local businessman in my hometown of Liss, California.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, thegreentoolbelt.com. He doesn't make these anymore, but he'd be happy to partner with anyone out there if they want to make them.
Thegreentoolbelt.com if you want to be as cool as Mr. Liss.
Right.
So tell us, what are you doing here? I know you became in early and you started some teaching.
What in the beginning, Gary Liss?
Well, I started Earth Day 1970. I'm a product of Earth Day 1970. I was a freshman in college at Tufts University. Was going to be an electrical engineer to go into my father's electronics firm. Just connected with the environmental movement as I was passionate about nature, Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, and all that type of stuff. But I was a product of Earth Day. We developed the first recycling program on Tufts University campus. I was involved with SOAP, Students Organized Against Pollution.
What inspired you way back then?
Well, it was the environmental movement that we needed to do something to save the world. It's saving the human species. The world's going to survive.
Right.
And so it's all about trying to figure out how we can be sustainable and live within our means. And for me, the environmental movement did that, and recycling in general, but now zero waste since the mid-90s. We've been promoting zero waste since 1996 when it first came over from Australia, and we are almost at 20 years out now that we've been promoting zero waste. And what's so exciting about zero waste is it's a business-friendly approach to changing the economy by recognizing that businesses can save money by reducing their wastefulness and reuse, recycling, and composting more.
How hard is it to get that education into some of these larger corporations?
The companies are getting it. There's 2,800 businesses in Japan alone that by 2006 were reported as adopting the zero waste goal. 99% had achieved zero to landfill, a third were zero to burning as well. That's because the Japanese government challenged their businesses to help implement the Kyoto Protocol about climate change, because zero waste will help about climate change. And they hired Gunter Pauli and the Zero Emissions Research Initiatives. We gave them $10 million to figure out how to get to zero waste and to train businesses.
Gunter, for our audience, you can find him at zeri.org.
Right, zeri.org,
Yeah.
right. And now the Blue Economy
It's a book that Gunter wrote.
Right, and the Blue Economy, they looked at what does nature do to solve wasting problems, and found thousands of examples, and the Blue Economy is 100 of the best examples of what nature does that are business opportunities.
Work in a market.
You can work in a market, and it's open source. Read the book and go develop that business. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you first started, when you were talking about in college, now and the zero waste kind of came out in the mid-90s.
Right.
How exciting is it for you to see now, where you are presently, that so many companies have adopted this, and even countries kind of enforcing it?
It's incredible. We have, in the last 3 to 4 years, changed the world in terms of its goals. Every major organization in the world is now saying zero waste is the goal. We don't agree on what that means, so this year we're fighting for the brand of what zero waste means. The U.S. Zero Waste Business Council follows the Zero Waste International Alliance definition of zero waste. No burn, no bury, no toxics. And others who burn waste say the goal is zero waste to landfill. Just throw it in our burner and we'll get rid of it.
So it's not in a landfill, but that's pollution.
That's pollution.
That adds to climate chaos.
Exactly. The U.S. Zero Waste Business Council is following the Zero Waste International Alliance guidelines We're the only ones that are certifying businesses to those standards. And the Zero Waste International Alliance is working around the world to get its definition of zero waste adopted by governments, by industries, by standard-setting organizations, because it has the most benefit for the world.
And it has a very broad constituency that develop its standards too.
Exactly. The ZWIA standard.
ZWIA, for the audience, is zwia.org.
Right, and that's the website for the International Alliance. It was formed in 2002 to set worldwide standards for what zero waste means. We've set a definition, global principles for communities, principles for businesses, a hierarchy of highest and best use of what zero waste choices are and which ones you should choose first, and recognition programs for businesses and communities. And the Zero Waste Business Recognition Program of ZWIA is what was the beginnings of what U.S. Zero Waste Business Council certified to. In fact, Tom has helped a number of Whole Food markets certify to the U.S. Zero Waste Business Council, and they were the first ones following the ZWIA guidelines before we even had our scorecard certification system. We now have developed at U.S. Zero Waste Business Council this scorecard that has 80 credits, 15 categories of credits on what it means to be a successful zero waste business. And we just heard presentations at the conference that were just really exciting about, because people who went through our certification, they use that as a checklist to see all the things that they could do more to be even a better zero waste company. So even beyond the impressive numbers about diversion from landfill are how they focus on leadership and training and closed loop, using materials locally for domestic markets rather than shipping it overseas, eliminating wasteful practices, reusing things. We give credits for all those different categories, so we're really comparing apples and oranges through the scorecard to have a real great sense of what it takes to be a very successful zero waste business.
That's so exciting to hear.
Right.
So do you think some of the challenges just in the beginning for a business to kind of shift is just creating new behaviors?
Exactly. There's a culture change or an embracing of the culture. I just was working with Nutiva, a natural foods company, doing the validation of they're applying to be certified. And we interviewed the staff there, and it was just so exciting because I know the CEO there, John Rulak, came out of the composting industry, totally embraces our goals. They're a B Corporation. And every staff person I talked to talked about, we're here because we love the values of this company, and we're so impressed to be working with the values of the company. So in some places, the values are already there because they hired for that in the hiring of the company. But in other places, there is a need for the culture change to change the behavior. And 95% of people want to do the right thing. It just needs setting up the system to make it easy, convenient, and clear on how to do it.
It's the right thing to do, plus you save money. It's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
But what I'm hearing from you is that maybe the new culture is already established. It's already in the thought process.
And the millennials are leading the way now, because recent studies are showing the sharing economy is really happening. We've talked about it for years, but it's really happening now. And the sharing economy is part of what zero waste is all about. Everyone doesn't need to own everything. We can share.
We just talked about that
With
Eric Lombardi about everyone doesn't need a lawnmower. We could share one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
In fact, I was going to try to set up a share with a lawnmower and a powerboat, and I don't know if it'll work.
Yeah. Well, and tool libraries are coming up, and repair cafes are new things that are happening.
Explain repair cafe. This is an interesting
a
thing.
whole new phenomenon just in the last year or two. It's exploding around the country, where there's people who are handy tinkerers. There's lots of tinkerers out there who are just handy with repairing things. and the repair cafes enlist a local tinkerer.
It's kind of like a flea market for repairing gadgets.
Right, and people
Instead of throwing them away, we're repairing. We're going back to the 50s. We're going to fix the microwave.
It's reestablishing repair as a viable thing. I didn't get a new car for 20 years. You know, I always repaired it.
Right.
And the decision was easy for me. I could spend thousands of dollars and go into debt, or I could spend a little bit and keep it going. And why
the cars
not?
are built to last that long, so why are we? It's like we became such a disposable society. But I'm
Right.
excited to hear
Right.
kind of a shift in consciousness here.
And the millennials are further ahead. Of all the age groups, everyone said what was most important to them was not money, it was a rewarding job. That they could make a difference in the world. And people that are in jobs where they're making a difference are just as excited as I am telling you about that, because that's what people are seeing, that you don't get happiness from goods and products, you get it from relationships and experiences and making a difference.
And standing underneath a canopy. It's neo-agrarian.
She knows that I have this basic thesis, well, just because I've read about the anthropological studies. Humans are happy under tree canopies.
I love it. I love it. I was the mayor in my town of Liss, and got elected because we're fighting to maintain our rural open spaces, and we actually incorporated as a town so we would not grow. Population 6,700, right on the outskirts of Sacramento, where everyone was just booming and growing. In the down economy, we had no debt. We had the lowest unemployment rate. We had the highest property values being maintained, and the town budget was fiscally solvent because we didn't go into debt for stuff for the future on the bet that it would happen. It's a conservative approach, but that's what zero waste is about. It's about conservation of resources, being efficient, realizing that enough is enough.
It's not cool to waste anymore.
Oh my
We're
gosh,
being resourceful.
Why? Exactly.
It's an exciting time to watch this, and what a legacy for you.
And Americans used to be proud that we can get everything but the squeal out of the stockyards of Chicago. We are ingenious, and waste not, want not was as American as an apple pie. It still is. So it's returning to that core value of Americans of doing more with less, and deciding that all this stuff isn't as important as the people around us.
Right. Wonderful. Well, again, I'm inspired. It's so great to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Again, what a fascinating time to be watching all this unfold.
It is, and businesses are getting it all over the country, and getting a warm reception, and they're all sharing the information. They're all we're getting a situation where all the businesses are sharing their best practices, helping each other, even when they compete for selling their product. They're helping be the most inspiring to each other as possible.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah, pleasure.